Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Goldberg of Optimus Performance, bringing you practical tips on leadership, team development, and employee performance in the workplace. And as you can see, I have a very special guest with me today, Genevieve Piturro. Welcome, Genevieve.
Thank you, Steve.
Genevieve has an amazing story, which we're going to unravel, hear about, and learn from, as well as she's done some amazing things in terms of finding her own purpose and helping others as well. And that's an essential element, I believe, that drives success, whether it's in business or every aspect of life. You need to have a purpose that you're passionate about. And we're going to learn how to do that from Genevieve and hear her story as well. So let me just bring up your bio here. And I guess you could add that into your story as well, Genevieve, as we speak. So Genevieve Piturro is an inspirational speaker, author, and consultant on purpose and the human connection, and the founder of Pajama Program, the Pajama Program, which I was actually telling my partner that I was meeting you today, and she says, "Oh, I heard about that."
Oh.
So that's great. You're famous in my household. A successful TV executive, Genevieve dramatically changed the direction of her life and found her purpose when a 6-year-old girl's question rocked her world and jumped off the corporate ladder. And she jumped off the corporate ladder. Genevieve did. In 2001, Piturro founded the hugely successful national organization Pajama Program and has written 2 books on purposeful leadership and launching a legacy. Her 5 times award-winning Amazon bestseller, Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas, How to Transform Your Life, Embrace the Human Connection, and Lead with Meaning, debuted during the COVID shutdown to rave reviews, as its message dovetails with our nation's interest in the power of purpose and the human connection. Genevieve's second book, Purpose, Passion, and Moxie, How to Lead the Way and Leave a Legacy, is a workbook to help you start a nonprofit from scratch to success. That was released in 2023. Genevieve has since been interviewed on Oprah and on many national and local TV and radio shows, and rang the NASDAQ stock market opening bell in 2016. Wow, that's quite a resume. It's quite an accomplishment to have been on Oprah. So let's hear more about your story and how did this transformation take place from being in the TV industry, in the corporate world, to finding your purpose, actually, and engaging in this endeavor. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm happy to fill you in. I always wanted to be a TV executive, and that really was going against the grain in my family's household because I'm the first of 4. My dad came from Italy off the boat. My mom's Italian too. And they expected their kids to get married and have kids. Family was all about family, which, I loved. But there was something in me that wanted to go into Manhattan and be a TV exec. So I was doing that. And I was a workaholic, like so many people in New York City. But I had an exciting career. I was single. I bought a co-op. And I was, showing up before daylight and leaving after sundown. And 12 years of that was a lot. But, I was wrapped up in the whole whirlwind until one afternoon I heard a slight voice, but audible to me. I could hear it ask me. It came from in me. And it asked me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And Steve, I was shocked to hear that voice. But almost instantly, I realized, there might be something missing. If I keep doing this for the next 30 years, I'm going to be alone. And maybe not having a family and not having children wasn't the right thing, but here I am. So maybe I could find a way to bring children into my life. So I started reading in emergency shelters, reading to children at night, because I had seen news reports recently about police storming a place where they were hurting their children and taking the kids out. And I called the police and I asked them where they take these children. So they directed me to some emergency shelters. So I called and they welcomed me in. I went in at night after work with storybooks and I read to these children who were, who were afraid and, some of them traumatized because here they were, yesterday they were where they thought, they would be, and not thinking, of course, that it wasn't safe because kids just, they want to be with the people that they're supposed to, be with. And to them, they were in a strange, uncomfortable place. And tomorrow, who knows what would happen. And I know they were afraid of that. So here I am reading to these children in my business suit, and I'm looking out at them. There were about a dozen the first couple of times, and they were in clothes that didn't fit well, soiled clothes. You could tell that they hadn't been well taken care of, and they were upset and crying. And some of them were just, staring at me, and I couldn't do anything but read the stories. And week after week, different children. It was the same thing. But despite the problems that I knew they were going through, I felt bonded to them. There was something that I somehow instinctively knew they needed, and somehow maybe an hour of peace hearing a story was taking them to a little tiny bit of a calmer place. And for me, I was feeling more grounded than ever. And a couple of weeks later, I decided to go follow where they were taking the children after they read to me, where they were going to sleep at night. And when I peered in the room, it was very, very bare. And there were 2 or 3 kids on one surface of a bed or a cot, some of them huddled together, and they had nothing to change into, the same soiled or tight clothes that they'd been wearing for who knows how long. And I asked if I could bring pajamas next time. And the staff thought that would be a nice idea. So I did. And I brought pajamas and I read to the children first. I put the pajamas out and I started handing them out to the children one by one. And one little girl was so afraid of me. She kept looking at the table of the pajamas, but she kept shaking her head. No, she wouldn't take them from me, pair that I wanted to give her. I didn't know why. So I gave them to the rest of the children who went into that room to sleep. And finally, she was still there watching me. And I went over and I tried one more time to explain, she could keep the pajamas. She didn't have to give them back. I knew they would fit her, trying to, gently coax her into taking them. And she just looked at me and she looked at the table and she looked at the pajamas and she said, what are these? What are pajamas? And I was shocked. She could barely say pajamas. She just said, what are these? What are pajamas? And I had to explain pajamas to a little girl. And that changed everything in my heart and eventually in my head about the path I had been on.
Wow. So what happened from that point? Like, how did you go then from being a TV executive to opening this? Now, is this a nonprofit that you started?
Yes.
And have you left completely the TV world or the media?
Well, it took a little while. It took a little while for me because I was just obsessed. So I was running around and buying pajamas and bringing them everywhere, that pretty quickly my passion for my job that I loved was waning. And I couldn't tell anyone because I had a mortgage, I had bills, but I couldn't keep my mind off and my heart off these kids that were, waiting, and the staff who were calling, do you have any more pajamas, and sharing my number. I just wanted to do that, but I knew that I couldn't sustain anything. I couldn't even buy any more pajamas if I didn't keep my job. So I was juggling for many months, and that was very dangerous. And in my book, I talk about the financial danger of that. And also, my fear of telling anyone about it, because even when I tried after a few months to tell a girlfriend, she thought I was crazy. Why would you do that? Why would you give up everything? Why can't you just do that one day a week, on a weekend? And so I didn't find any support there. And I continued to keep it a secret. And it got me in lots of messes, of course. But I finally, I met a great guy and we are married now.
Oh.
And he said, I think you should go for it. I told them the little girl story that I just told you. And that was a huge breath I took, figuring there might be a few more people besides him that would understand. And of course, one of the lessons I learned and I teach is you've got to share your passion. You've got to take a chance, and you've got to be brave enough to know that we all have our purpose. And I found mine. It started as a crazy aha moment.
So is this turned into a nonprofit organization, or what is going on with this program now?
Yes, that was over 22 years ago.
Okay.
So yes, what happened was kind of funny because I was just doing this, and then some other people were getting involved in helping me bring the pajamas. And then I got an article in a national magazine, and thousands of boxes appeared at my co-op
Wow.
of readers who wanted to donate cash, checks, pajamas, books. And one corporation asked me for my 501c3 because I guess they wanted to give me the grant, but I didn't even know what that was. So that's when I realized what I was doing could be legitimate, could be real. There were people to help, and I learned really fast, how to make it a legitimate nonprofit. And thank goodness, we're celebrating now 23 years
Wow.
of Pajama Program. And after 20 years of being the executive director, I'll always be the founder. I decided that I knew part 2 of my purpose was to help inspire other people to listen to their heart, to find their purpose, and to share it so that we can all find meaning in our lives, in our communities, in our families, and contribute to the greater good.
So let's just talk about that for a little bit. That feeling inside, that transformation from, climbing the corporate ladder, having, your dream job, I guess. It's what you wanted to do. You took the risk to do that. And now you've transitioned, well, a while ago, into this purposeful mission, which is also a business. Talk to us about the feeling, the inner feeling, the transformation inside. What has that been like? What was the feeling? What was the experience? And how's it led to where you are today? That inner transformation.
Sure. Well, first it was very scary because I there was something in me telling me that this was not going to be something I could let go, that this little girl's impact on me was bigger than me. And it was bigger than anything that I ever thought or dreamed I could ever do. But it was a moment, it was first a moment where I heard that voice in me asking if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? That was scary, but it never dawned on me that what would follow, simply reading in an emergency shelter, would go beyond something I would do when I could in the evening. I thought that would be enough. But that chance meeting, and I don't know if that anything is chance, that meeting changed something in me, in my heart, something in my soul that wouldn't let go. And my brain, of course, was fighting me because it knew the perils and the fears and all of that self-doubt. What will people say? Do I even know what I'm doing? How can I throw everything away? How am I going to eat? How am I going to make any money? Am I going to be homeless? 1,000,001 fears crept in. So it was both exhilarating when I sat down with those kids and I had those moments, and really frightening when I left and I really took a look at my life and what might happen. So what changed it is when I started to tell people, when I finally found the few people that were supportive after the one friend was not, it changed everything, because then I wasn't feeling like I was exploding inside. I could talk to a few people about it, and those supporters, and I always say you have to find your cheerleaders because those naysayers will get you every time. I finally not only had people to talk to, but if I needed an attorney when I did, if I needed an accountant when I did, those people further helped me, and in a professional way, which is what I feared the most. Like, I don't know what to do with this. Is there a possible way to leave this job I worked 12 years in and start something new that I don't even know what it's about? So then I started to feel relief, and support is the best feeling in the world. So that was great. Every small step up at the beginning is a celebration. And then as you grow and you see the people who mirror your emotion, who feel the same way, when I tell the story about the little girl that want to help because they feel what you feel, that's an amazing, uplifting feeling that you share this human emotion. And I talk about human connection because that changes the game. That takes you, football fields farther. It's like a touchdown every time somebody gets it and supports it and takes you to the next step. So all those years of building were all the highs. And then, of course, as you grow, there are challenges. So sometimes 2 or 3 steps forward, 1 or 2 back, and then you question yourself, am I really made for this? Do I really know enough? Did I start this too late? You start coming down on myself, but it's the supporters. It's the people that feel the way you feel, the people that you've touched who want to then touch someone, that keeps you, feeling like you are on the right track. And of course, I do know now that it's a game changer when you really call in the human connection. People used to say, oh, look at the power of one, the power of one. It's not the power of one that changes things. It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. That
I
changed
like that.
everything.
Power of one another. That's a great way to put it. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, community, people rallying around a common objective or
right.
purpose, I think. So, and what you say is, I think every business owner, everybody can relate to the ups and downs that we experience, especially trying to build a business where there's so many uncertainties. I always, talk about goal setting as like mountain climbing. If you have a lofty goal, it's like climbing a mountain. You got to expect obstacles to come in your way.
Yeah.
It's how prepared you are to address them, and you can't do it alone unless you're some elite athlete. But even then, I just saw the movie about that swimmer Nyad. I forget.
Yes, Diana and I had.
Diana Nyad, and obviously she had the talent, but at 64 years old, when she finally did it, swam from Cuba to Florida, there was a whole team of 40 people around her that made it happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible. So this brings me back to organizations. Now you've expanded into doing workshops along with your book in companies. Tell me about how did that transition into bringing this idea of purpose into the workplace?
Well, people along the way, all these years, have asked me to mentor and to coach them and to speak about the power of that little girl's question, and really the power of purpose, and how I was able to let go of one path and take another, and I would speak about the human connection and the power of that when you are on purpose and when others are aligned with you. It's the key. Those two are keys, the purpose and the human connection. And we all want to live a life that contributes. And I'm saying we all do because I believe we all do. And I don't know how many of us set out thinking about that. The word legacy, people used to think, oh, when they're gone, that's what you think about. But it's a living legacy. How do you want to live? And of course, how do you want to be remembered? But what do you want to contribute? So I think that those topics were really intriguing and compelling to some people who started asking me to speak. And then I saw that the more people who see it's possible especially for someone like me who didn't have money or wasn't even a saver and made, a complete mess of things before I figured it out. If I could do it, then anybody can do it. And so many people have that dream they put on the back burner. And that makes me so sad. So I'm trying to help them bring it up to the front burner.
So, a lot of business owners, for their business, they have purpose or mission statements, vision statements. I've seen lots of these over the years that ended up in drawers. And even then, they're often just like marketing, wordy marketing stuff that nobody really rallies around. So can a business have in terms of what you're talking about, purpose, is it something like for a business owner organization separate from the mission of the company? Is it something else that is to give back to the community or to this world that the owner is passionate about, that everybody can support in the organization if they want? Is that more about what you're bringing to companies and business owners, let's say?
Well, a purpose has to be shared.
Okay.
So if it's a purpose that one person, man or woman, who is running a company or founded a company has written, and then, like you say, puts it in a drawer or puts it on the wall and doesn't speak about it, that's just a personal dream. But if they understand how having purpose and sharing it is just changes everything, including the bottom line, then they'll understand. You take the purpose, you hire people who align with it. That doesn't mean everybody has to feel exactly the same way, but there's something in each person that's on the team that relates to it, that wants to be part of the messaging or the feeling, or just giving back, to be inspired by their leader who is so touched and inspired by something that they want to support that. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, exactly the same, but everybody has to feel it to some degree and want to support it. So the sharing part is the human connection part. Because if you invite people to talk about and contribute what makes them light up, and you tell them, this is my overall purpose, why I started this business, I want to hear yours. Let's see if there's something here that we can mesh, that I can support you, you can support me. How can we make sure you feel like you're contributing to a purpose that we all can be aligned with? Even if it's not exactly the same thing, there's a thread there, an emotional thread of support, of caring, that's been missing for so long. And only now, and probably because of COVID, are people looking at their lives and looking back and saying, you know what, I didn't feel anything when I worked there. I showed up and I got a paycheck and I did the minimum. But did I really care about anything they stood for, anything they did? Did I even know? Did anybody even communicate with me the emotion? Because we all start something because of an emotion. I don't know too many people who say, I don't really care about this, but I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to start this business. They care. They care. They have a talent. They want to share it. They want to help people. They want to do something that's coming from inside them. They feel like this is what they were meant to do. So I think aligning purpose among everybody is important. Sharing it, communicating it, finding a two-way street, opening up dialogue. That's part of the human connection. And if everyone, especially coming from the leader, says, let's make a difference in the world, just that phrase, that's inspiring. I mean, I don't know how many leaders will say to their team, let's make a difference in the world. That alone, I think, brings people together and brings support to the leader who needs it.
Yeah, that's you bring up a lot of thoughts when I listen to you. And I just thinking of one company I met at a gala awards, annual awards dinner, that the owner started a foundation for dementia, to help fight dementia or research. And you could tell, like, there was several employees from that company there, and you could feel that everybody was engaged with that, and that's a word that we hear so much about now, that word engagement. And, there's studies done every year by Gallup, by other consulting firms as well. They measure the level of engagement in different countries, and it's very low. It's always very low, and I don't think it's really getting better. And if you look at the turnover of employees, like the last stat I saw was every 4.1 years, people are looking for a new job or changing jobs, which means that they're not fully engaged. Obviously, you want to be engaged with your work, but you also want to be engaged with the company. So I guess one of the benefits, I don't think companies should want to start or share a purpose or make up a purpose just to engage employees. It has to come from the founder, I guess, or the leadership. So how do you help people find their purpose?
Well, we're talking about individuals, or we're talking about people who lead teams.
Well, let's say
both.
Let's start with people who lead teams. Is it a
People
different process or for individuals?
Yes, it is a little bit different. Hopefully the leader who has a purpose started as an individual who had a purpose, right? So if you're an individual looking for your purpose, then you're just looking at the first step, because you have to know what you feel you should be doing in this life. So that's one thing. So once you figure that out and you say, I'm going to start a team, or I'm going to take this job seriously, that even if I'm an employee, I know my purpose, and it is being in this company, and I'm leading a team. So it's knowing why you're there, but it's feeling passionate about it and wanting to share that and wanting to bring people in. So if you're a leader and your team does not even know or feel your passion, and probably 5 years ago, even maybe less, we didn't really have leaders who you could tell all were passionate. Some, but if you're not passionate, nobody knows, and nobody's going to have, feel any inspiration, because that's where inspiration comes from. You're passionate. People see that, and they feel fired up, and they see somebody who's really enthusiastic and feels so deeply about doing what they're doing because of what it means to someone else, what it means to the community, what it means to the family, what it means to the world. When you feel
contagious,
that,
right?
Go ahead.
It's contagious, right?
It's contagious.
That
exactly.
passion.
That's a good word. It's contagious. So now we're talking to leaders about sharing that, because it may have seemed unprofessional in the past to get excited, or to even use emotions to lead a meeting. Now, everybody's very professional, and usually it's one way. The boss talks and everybody else says yes, or the boss gives out the jobs and everybody says okay, and they go away, and then they report back that they did their job. But it does take some getting used to allow emotions into the conversation, to share more than maybe you thought it was necessary. Maybe nobody knew why you started the company. Start there. This is what happened to me one day, or this is the hole I saw in this business. So I was looking for a way to fill the hole, to bridge the gap. Talk about that, because people are interested. And if people aren't interested in you as a human being, how long are they really going to stick around and care? So it's communication, and it's sharing, and it's the human connection piece that has to a lot of times be mended, or even reignite after COVID. Everyone clammed up. We didn't have face to face, and now it's not as comfortable for some people to start again, to get used to the face to face. So it's about communication and human connection.
Excellent. Now, when you meet, let's say, leaders, well, let's go back for a minute. And so you talked about leaders sharing. What about individuals? How does it differ?
It doesn't really. I mean, the leader needs to start, right? Everything's from the top down. So
that's what I would think. Yeah.
So if a leader is interested in enough to be genuinely interested in keeping the employees that he hired or she hired, then taking an active interest in what they're doing, either one-on-one, in a group talk. Just simply ask, why'd you join the company? If they weren't in the hiring meeting and asking those questions, then ask, what made you want to say yes? What do you enjoy working? What do you enjoy about working here? What do you feel personally you're contributing, or what would you like to contribute, even if it's not in the job description? What do you like to do? Do you like to play the piano? Do you like animals? Where are we going to align in? Either we're passionate about something, even if it's different, we have something in common, maybe, that we can somehow bring into the office. But you can't answer that until you start to open up and let people know that they're welcome to talk about what lights them up.
So everybody can do that. A human being, those are human skills. Some are more comfortable with it naturally, but it really takes a mindset, because even though everybody can ask questions and listen, you first have to understand and have a mindset to want to do that and link the reason to do that and cultivate that purpose and share it with others. I would imagine
It
that
has to
would
be
be an
genuine.
obstacle. That would be, yeah.
Yes. First, it has to be genuine,
Right.
and that's where a leader separates from a boss. It has to be a genuine interest in the person, and of course, in continuing to grow something that you're building, because you can't do it alone. So a good leader knows that, and a good leader wants to inspire, and a good leader wants to change and contribute to his employees, his teams, and beyond. So if that is a genuine leader, then the genuine leader more naturally, I believe, can engage their teams and can find ways, or seek out someone who can help them.
It's a good point.
If they're
Yeah.
not, used to it. Some people, maybe it doesn't come naturally, but they have the heart for it, but they don't know the words, and they don't want, they want to be a friend to some of the employees, but they know that that's not exactly the way to approach it. But there's something in between being the leader and being a caring teammate, right? Because leaders are on the team. Tom Brady's the leader, but he's on the team. Derek Jeter, if I'm talking sports, they're leaders, but they're on the team.
So it's learning about how to adapt the right style, like you're saying about being too friendly. That's kind of like a paternalistic style of leadership. Yeah. So you want to be more neutral, but understand the style of leadership that you need to develop for these types of communications.
Yeah, everybody's different. Compassion, that's something that we need more of. Interest is something we need more of. Inviting everybody to the table is something we need more of. I mean, we know, both sides, leaders know what we need more of, and certainly employees know, how they feel about whether they're feeling shut out or, nobody's telling them anything. Okay. So all those conversations are coming up now.
So typically when you engage in conversation, let's say with a business leader, about them, engaging with your program, your training, what is the biggest obstacle? I mean, you mentioned fear, but maybe just elaborate on what you see as what holds people back the most. Right. I mean, you talked a lot about, things like being able to be communicating in the right way. Right. What else do you see as obstacles to this?
It's new for a lot of leaders. Right. It's new, and they don't know where to begin. And all of a sudden, people are leaving, and they spending so much money retraining new people. They don't know where to begin. They don't know where the problem is, and it takes too long for them to take action sometimes, because nobody wants to feel if they're a failure. No leader wants to feel like they're a failure. So no, and if you're not used to having a culture that's thriving, then it can be overwhelming to think, where do I begin? You don't have unlimited pockets to just keep giving people money. And you know what? We can't just give out money. It'd be great to give raises to everybody all the time, but that's not realistic. So what else makes people feel like they want to stay and contribute? And the money will come, but there's something more, there's something bigger. And I remember I was stunned years ago when I read a study that said people would rather have a pat on the back and told that they are such a good employee than even a raise. That meant more. And that's sad. That's sad that there were so few pats on the back and so few leaders and bosses telling people how much they meant to the organization. That's all it would take. There's got to be a compromise of certainly compensation and letting people know their worth.
Yeah, money doesn't, money gives you a standard of living, which of course everybody would like a better standard of living, but you have to be realistic with what skills you bring to the table, and you could always get lured away with a bigger paycheck, but that doesn't translate into work satisfaction always. And I think people are realizing that more than ever
after
now.
10 years, 15 years of hopping around for more money, I think a lot of people are stopping to say, where do I have a better life?
Right.
Okay, I have better things, but here I am, 45, 50. I've been to 10 companies. I couldn't care about any of them. And here I am now looking at my beautiful stuff. I don't know how many people,
I promised myself I'll clean out my closets and start giving or selling stuff, because it's just like becoming unmanageable. And when you think about looking at all your stuff, do you feel more satisfied because of that? Not really. It's living each moment and finding satisfaction, appreciation just from, being alive. There's that joy of life that somehow we seek it out in the things and the outer experiences, but not, finding that purpose and fulfillment from self-actualization, as I guess this sounds like a path towards self-realization, self-actualization, honoring, learning about yourself, and taking steps, concrete steps to live it,
right.
So I
And
really,
how do you feel, and what do you bring of yourself when you hate getting up in the morning, going to the job, coming home late, feeling like it was another terrible day? If you have family, if you have friends and you're spending time with them, do you think that doesn't affect not only you and your health, but it affects your relationships? And the older we get, the more it piles on. And just the idea of going to sleep thinking, dreading waking up, of being there all day, of coming home, what is it? How are you a family person? How are you giving your best to anyone? First to yourself, to your community, to your family. What are you, dying a little bit every day? That's extreme. But if you're not happy, especially if you're not happy and you want to be happy, that's no way to live.
yeah. So in terms of somebody learning, now I know I was looking on your website, you have a 90-day, no, what was it? A 90-minute activity exercise. Tell us about that.
Yes, that's mostly for individuals, because we start there.
Okay.
Yes, it says find your purpose exercise on my website, and you can take that. And I tell you, take 90 minutes of alone time. You can't have your kids running in and out. You can't say I can do it in 30 minutes because I'm fast. You can't. If you're not going to give yourself 90 minutes, then you're going to cheat yourself. And you could have a glass of wine, you could have a cup of tea, you could have, anything you want, but just alone time and pen and paper, not a computer. Write with your hand, pen to paper, makes a difference. And just give yourself that time and see what happens in the 90th minute.
So I'll put a link. So is that a free tool or?
It's certainly, if anybody wants to talk after that, sure. But I wanted to just give people a first step, because there are a lot of individuals who are reconsidering their paths.
Right.
So this is something that's focused, that focuses them on themselves, and it's a good look at yourself in the mirror, in the soul, in the mirror.
Okay, so I'm going to put a link directly to that on your website, as well as your homepage, and where they can purchase your book and contact you. Before we wrap up, can you tell us about a company, a leader that followed this approach and you helped find their purpose and how it translated into their organization? Do you have a little story to tell us?
Sure. I have a bunch of testimonials, but one is has become a very good friend of mine. Randy runs a flooring company. He started it. He's the founder. He's recently retired, now consulting. And we talked about legacy, like I mentioned here. And he and I met because he wanted to know more about Pajama Program. And one day led to another. He felt my passion, he says, and he wanted to do something with his company. But it wasn't just about writing a check for him. He got everybody involved in helping me provide pajamas and books to holiday parties for the children who didn't have a family or anyone to care for them, to do those things for them. And he said when Hurricane Katrina hit, and he had been working it with his staff and me, he sent me down there with his drivers and thousands of pajamas and books that we collected. And we gave them to the people who had children who were coming out of Hurricane Katrina and had nothing. And the bonding of his staff during that, before and after, to prepare, changed everything. Everyone was personally involved. And he told people, this is our living legacy. You cannot wait. This is giving back. This is what I am most proud of. And doing this with Jen and Pajama Program is changing the world. And we're all doing that. And he was so committed to letting everyone know the word legacy before it was, popular. And I always admired that. So when he told me what a difference working with us was for all those years, I take it to heart, because he's a beloved leader and so respected. And, he saw his employees as people's hearts and souls.
How did it benefit the business?
He's very successful. And I know that because everyone sees his heart, because not only did it come out for us, but it opened everyone's heart in the four walls of his business. And that is, like you said, contagious.
Yeah, fabulous. I'm definitely going to do that 90-minute worksheet.
Good.
Because I got a few purposes in my head, in my heart. And I think it's time I kind of chose the most passionate one. I have one more question, and that is that little girl that you met that day that didn't want to take the pajamas, didn't even know what pajamas were. Do you know what happened to her? Have you?
No, I don't. It was, and it is a fluid population. And, because that was right at the start of my journey, I wasn't taking notes. I didn't take notes until months later, just to remember where I was going. And then, of course, when things started to take off, I kept copious notes. But no, I have no idea. Other children that came later, I do. Okay. But nope, I don't know where in the world she is, and I don't know how I look for her, and I don't know how I know it was her,
Right. No,
because I
of
don't
course not.
even know
Yeah, you would have
which
had
of her.
to kept in touch over the years, yeah,
Yes, or she
to
had
know
this.
how the
Yeah,
outcome was. Yeah,
or there would have to be multiple confirmations that it was her,
right.
because
Of course.
yeah, she was
Well,
little.
Genevieve, it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed learning about this. I admire you tremendously. Is there one question that I should have asked you that I didn't, that you'd like to ask and answer?
Um, no, but I will say, for some people it's near impossible to make the jump like I did. It was
Right.
possible. I didn't do it in a very responsible way, but it worked out, so I'm okay about it. But I teach the jump and I teach the slide. So I want people to know that if they really like their job, but their passion is maybe singing, or it doesn't have to be nonprofit. Purpose has nothing to do with it being a nonprofit. It's just what you believe you're meant to do. But there's a slide, and you can slide that purpose, that passion into your life, no matter what you're doing. And it makes a world of difference, because too many people set it aside for when I retire, when my kids are out of the school, when I make enough money. But it's not necessary. You can find a way to spend an hour involved in that, whatever it is. And I help people find something that changes their whole vibration, because they've given themselves that gift of even 1 hour soaking
Well,
in that purpose or that passion, 1 hour a week. And it makes a big enough difference for me to say, please
and I
think about it.
imagine one can have several passions or purposes that they want to pursue. Like I can think of two or three that I'd like to get behind or act
Yeah,
on, and I will for sure.
good. I like to
Yeah.
hear that.
Well, again, thank you, Genevieve. It's been great. For those new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and turn on notifications so you get news of new videos. If you'd like to connect with Genevieve, I'm going to put links to her website and to where you could access that worksheet on finding your purpose to help you connect with that. And I guess the ultimate goal is leading a more fulfilled life. And that's what life is about. It's about experiencing life to the fullest. And if you have a passion, if you have a purpose that comes from within, that's a great step forward. And that's, I think, where a lot of fulfillment comes from.
And I
So
believe
again,
it keeps us young.
keeps us young for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today, taking the time. And I look forward to continuing this conversation somehow in the future. And I'm definitely going to follow you. And I sent you a LinkedIn connection. You got to accept it. Okay.
I will. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.